Finally, we have the end of the third season of From, this amazing show from MGM. But we have a last episode showing an important death of an important character, and a rebirth of a monster that is the face of the show. We see Julie appearing there, the Julie of the future with shorter hair. She can really travel in time, so she can really be the solution to save everyone in From. And what about Boyd? What he will do now to discover those issues about the monsters? What is Boyd going to do now with the discovery about the Smiley monster? In this video, I'm going to explain everything about this ending, and if you wanna know, stay here and let's go. Hello everyone who watching this beautiful channel. My name is João Victor and I'm back to talk about From. Yeah, this amazing TV show that I never made a video especially about it. I was waiting to watch the end of the season to make a video explaining everything. This third season is not the best one, everyone knows, but I have to say this ending, especially this last episode of the season, if you compare with the last episode of the other seasons, I think it's the best one. But let's go, let's talk about it, let's explain everything. But first, don't forget to check the like in this video, it helps me a lot with the promotion. And also, if you like more contents about From, more explanations about this show, don't forget to subscribe here. And there we go. Yeah, here's the thing. With my first words about this episode, I need to say that most of you may not have liked the development of the season so far. You may find some things slow and all that, but you can't deny that this end of this third season was one of the season finales of the show so far that impacted the most. Watching the episode, you could see that we have at least 4 points here that are extremely crucial for the future of the show. One of them is the guy in the yellow suit, bald and all extremely sinister with this appearance. Another one of them is directly linked to this, with this Julie and her time travel. Another point is a question about Eloise, Victor's sister, and her possible death or not, which is open here, I will explain. And of course, the fourth point, finally, the return of the Smiley. The discovery of Boyd, and it carries a lot of things, the issue of Elgin and some other characters. But let's start this episode chronologically. I wanted to separate this video, this explanation, in parts. First, let's go to Boyd, which involves Fatima and all the monsters. We have a beginning with a first mission being presented for the development of the story to happen. Boyd is there without knowing what happened to Fatima yet when Alice arrives. Finally, he knows some clues about Elgin. He tells Boyd that Elgin knows something. Elgin is hiding something about Fatima, and this point drives their mission, especially Boyd's mission, to go after Elgin. And that's where Boyd's big point starts, his big decision to make in this episode. We have the dilemma about the true leader who does the right things or not. The priest himself throwing it in his face. But then, following that, as the situation steps, Boyd discovers that Elgin may know something. So, who is the next person who can be useful for this? The next person to find is Sarah, because she was the only source of information so far in this mission. The episode 9, she gave the information that Fatima is close, she's in a place, but that you won't be able to find her in time. But so, not only because of that he calls Sarah, but also because what he seems to hear about Elgin is very similar to what he heard from Sarah. Alice heard from Elgin that what's happening with Fatima will help them get out of there. That's what the city tried to tell Sarah back in another season, and Boyd recognized it. And so, an important thing, despite Boyd's mistakes, everyone here was susceptible to being deceived by the city for this idea of going out and such, but they stand firm in this episode. No one there gets convinced by this thing. Everyone is understanding that this is a big mistake. No one will leave. This is not right. And then we start with this interrogation with Elgin, which this initial part, you know, before the torture there. This initial part makes you very angry to watch. It makes you very angry with the character, especially Elgin, because we can see the way he blindly believes in the woman with the kimono, the way he talks about her, that she came to help us, she's an angel who appeared, like magically beautiful things, we are at Disney, fairy tales. You know it's not correct. You know he's manipulated there. But at least in this initial part, when no one did anything physically with him, watching this here, you want to slap him in the face, like, boy, you have been in this place for so long. You have seen what this place has done to people. Are you really believing in this fairy tale? At the beginning, I had a lot of anger with Elgin, but then the things turn around and mess with our feelings. You yourself, who are watching, keep wondering, would I do this or would I not do this? Because we see that Boyd is running out of options, and he appeals to the only option he can see, which is basically to get answers through physical pain. This is the moment when the priest appears there for him, questioning him and throwing his mistakes in his face, especially the issue that Boyd himself talked about in the other season. He said, "The city can't break me," and the priest throws it in Boyd's face, saying like, if you do what you're trying to do, now it means that the city broke you. But at the same time, I see the situation and keep thinking, there's a person, she's your daughter-in-law, your son's wife, she's in a missing situation. Something tells you that you won't be able to find her in time. She's in danger, and there's a person who had answers about her. What is the only solution to try to achieve something? I thought about the possibility of Boyd having someone to follow Elgin, but that would only have worked before he did the first peaceful interrogation, and he didn't know Elgin was leaving before he entered at the colony house. But okay, we see in the show that Boyd sees torture as the only option, and it ends up working out in the end. Sarah proves this in the most severe way possible. Like what she did to Elgin, it's completely crazy, but it's only because she does it that they get the answer they needed. They did it. If she hadn't done it, if Boyd hadn't decided to start the session to hurt the guy, they just wouldn't know what happened. But that's how it is. Going back to the scene when Boyd is starting to torture Elgin, out of nowhere the camera takes the picture there and the picture of his house appears, which is like the city, Fromville, trying to convince Boyd that this is really the right way. Oh, your house there, you will be able to get out. Let Elgin go with his plane. But that's the thing, sad question. It was the only way for Boyd, but at the same time it's not right. It is heavy to watch. It's very strong. Like after this episode in season 4, after what Sarah did to him, Elgin now won't have an eye. Probably if he returns to normal, he will become a rebel. He will put the population against Boyd. He will tell the population what Boyd did about Fatima, that Fatima killed Tilly. Boyd knew this and hid Fatima in a shack, then tortured Elgin. The population will definitely turn against Boyd in the next season. And also the same thing or worst about Sarah. She's already killed a person. She's already wanted to kill a child. She's done a lot of things in the town. And everyone knows that. Her image to the population was already tarnished. And now everything will get worse when they find out what she did to Elgin. But okay, while this is happening, we see that Fatima is giving birth there. The woman with the kimono makes her give a birth through the ball of flesh there, which will generate the monster. We will get to this in this video in the moment that all the stories connect. But first, let's get out of this part of Fatima, Boyd and everything and go to another important focus here, which is the issue of Tabitha, Jim and Jade and company, also Julie and more. Like we have a beginning where we have to remember that Tabitha is traumatized because from the end of episode 9 she found out that she may have some connection with Miranda, Victor's mother. And so here with her initial conversation with Jim, who is the guy who always used to question her and never agrees with Tabitha, I thought that in this scene he was already going to question her, saying no, you're not right, like he do every time. But he doesn't do that. We see Jim in this episode being a little useful, and it's sad because the first time Jim is useful in life, he dies precisely in the same episode. And I'm talking about it because here, instead of him questioning Tabitha and not believing it, he goes after Jade to try to solve it. Like Jade can be a person who can interpret what Tabitha experienced. So let's go after him, which gives them the opportunity to join their efforts and investigate further. And then we have that scene, as I said, of Jim being useful. Yeah, in this moment Jade is trying to solve these numbers from the tree, the faraway tree, and he reveals here that he thought of all kinds of combinations that can have 12 factors there. But the only one he hadn't thought of, Jim remembers. Jim is the helpful person here who makes them discover that the numbers on the bottles on the trees actually represents notes of music. And why does this happen precisely with Jim? Because he reveals that his mother was a pianist, so he had some notion about it. But the problem is, in the end of this episode, is that this idea that Jim gave, the fact that Jade played this violin kind of made this man in yellow suit appear. So like Jim gave them the right idea to find out more things, but he caused his own death. And so before we go to this part, the ending, where the stories connect, we have something going on here in the meantime. As father and mother, you know, Jim and Tabitha are there studying things, the children are together, but they are eating, Julie and Ethan. And here we have a very interesting conversation with something related to Julie, which fits a lot of important theory that a lot of fans made. We see her talking to Ethan and deciding to talk about what she's feeling. And she says that the visions she had don't seem to be a vision. They don't seem to be hallucinations. She says the same thing she said to her mother in the episode 9. It seems more like she was in the place. It's not that she hallucinated, it's that she went back back in the place. And we see that Ethan had an important role here, revealing some details about it. He agrees with her and says that she's a story walker, someone who can walk through events that have already happened in the story, but that's where the question is. She can fix something, and we have the answer in the end. It's important for us to notice the moment that Julie asks Ethan, "Oh, so if I can travel back in time, I can go back and fix things that went wrong." And Ethan reveals to her that she can revisit some moments, but that she can't change them. And that's exactly what happens in the end. Julie from the future comes back in the moment she knew that her father would be killed to try to stop it, and she couldn't. Just like Ethan said, there's no way to change it. But you might say, oh, in the other episode we saw that Julie traveled back in time and threw the rope to Boyd. She changed the story there. And I will say, not really, because it wasn't what she wanted. It wasn't an interference of her will. It was something that was set to happen there. It was a request from Martin, and she simply obeyed. So okay, we have this revelation from Ethan that she can't change things in the past. And so before I talk more about her, about Julie, first I have to talk about Henry and Victor's focus, which is not the most important thing here in this episode, but it's also important for the story because we see Henry getting close to Victor, trying to be close to him, and Victor trying to take him to a place that we later find out is his mother's grave, where Miranda's tomb would be. Like after the massacre there, he found his mother dead, picked her up and buried her there. But the point is that in this place we have another grave. Another person was buried there. That's where we get into the important point. There would be the grave of Eloise, his missing sister, who we don't know what happened. From this scene we can understand that Victor found some pieces, some fragments, and put it there, and he believes it was her body. Like he buried it. And you can ask, oh, does it proven that Eloise died? Is the mystery about Eloise over? No, the mystery about Eloise is not over. That's what Victor thinks, and he found pieces there that he thought were hers. While it can be her, it can also mean that he found some pieces of another body that he thought was hers, and it wasn't her. And Eloise is still alive. She may even be in the middle of them, like the theory about Acosta. I won't go into the depth of Eloise's story, but I can say that in season 4 we will definitely find out more about her and what really happened. Go write in the comments what you think about this issue, because it's another very important point in the story. But then, reaching the apex of this episode, we have a moment when everything comes together. Like, this final part of the episode became awesome, the best moment of the season in this ending. Mainly because of the level of revelations here, both in Jade and Tabitha's part, as well in Boyd's part, the Smiley monster coming back, and everything else. This also getting together with the soundtrack of the violin being played and all this, like it's very big and intense ending. We see that Jade plays the violin and the Unkui children start to appear, and the dynamics of this scene here are more interesting. So as he plays more, they get closer, and this mixing of Boyd's discovery, the ritual of all the monsters meeting there in the cave for the rebirth of the Smiley monster, for me is by far the most terrifying scene of the season. The way they made the scene of that piece of meat that grows, taking the form of a human, and the Smiley comes out of there, was awesome. Yeah, the Smiley monster is back, and the city, Fromville, even made a person that Boyd loves generate him. This is crazy. Like, I'm here in doubt if the monsters will see him there or not, if the Smiley saw Boyd, because they know where people are. The sequence here, I really don't know, but maybe could show Boyd coming back to the surface, saying what he saw, but it's even possible that he will be disturbed in his mind. If the script people want to write, season 4 begins with Boyd so traumatized. But then in the sequence we see an Unkui children, the little girl arriving at Tabitha and talking to her and speaking Unkui, which is the moment of revelation. Tabitha discovers that Unkui is remembered, for her and Jade to remember things. And then we have the revelation that she, Tabitha, was Miranda and Jade was Christopher, that the two of them basically are involved in all their reincarnations there. They keep coming back in other bodies because they didn't do the right thing in the first time. Tabitha and Jade were there at the beginning. They tried to save the children and couldn't. Everything indicates that they are always there. The person who tries to do something to save the children dies again, and there's a reincarnation. And I believe this is the right explanation, because she says that she and Jade were a couple, that they were parents of one of the children. The episode explains to us that an unknown entity made a proposal to give eternal life to the people of this village if they sacrifice their children. It seems that Jade and Tabitha were the only only ones who fought against it. So they are stuck in this loop, and those who accepted the proposal became monsters, who are controlled by From but do not really die. The proof of this was the return of Smiley monster. But okay, after that, with a lot of revelations, it leads us to the sinister ending. We see Jim alone, then Julie from the future showing up there to try to save Jim, asking him to leave, him not leaving, and Jim dying to this guy, this man in the yellow suit. But the important thing here is what the guy says. He said that this Jade knows how to play, that he can play well, and like, this indicates a lot that he only appeared. Like, what generated him, made him get out of there, was the music. He kills Jim in the neck there as if he were one of the monsters, but the thing is, he is in daytime, so he's like a different kind of monster, or even he's the guy who runs this place. And it's also interesting to see he telling Jim that his wife shouldn't have dug that hole. That's the same thing Jim heard in the first season in the radio. So Jim already talked to this man. He warned Jim in the first season. But then, going back to the Julie's point, Jim dies, we have the loss of her father, you know. She already knew that if she went back to this place, she would see this, probably because it's a version of Julie in the future. But the big point is, she's the only person apparently capable of saving everyone from this place, because she travels back in time. But as Ethan said to her in their conversation at the dinner, she can't change things. So now, knowing about this time travel, she's now going to need to figure out how she does it, so she can find out how she can change things in time. She can go back in time and stop the people of this village from killing their children, and all this will be over. And that's it. The season finale completely changed the meaning and the way we see this show, opening up a range of larger options, giving several important answers, but opening up others even more. That's where my great general point about this episode comes. We have an ending that is awesome, sinister in my opinion, at a level that this season 3 in no episode had reached yet. This is the best episode of the season 3 by far. Like, people used to think that it's just a small answer here. The explanation here, in fact, is that everyone died. No, it's not as simple as it seems. It's much more complex and needs a lot of story to be able to tell that. This episode proved that. We have a death and a resurrection ending, but with enough revelations that can help the characters try to figure out a way out of there. And based on what we have seen here, this shape seems to have a lot to do with Julie. Yes, that's my opinion. That's the best explanation I can give for this episode. For me, a great ending, knowing very well that the show was not going to end this season, which should end on a 4th or 5th season, so it fulfills the role that should be done here. Go write in the comments what you think about it. What do you think about this ending? Do you like more videos about it? More videos about From? More videos about other shows and movies? Don't forget to subscribe here in this channel. I will keep doing a lot of content here. Don't forget to check the like in this video. It helps me a lot with the promotion. Thank you for watching this video, and bye.